When we're doing road work, maybe we stop at a few houses and say, hey, we're gonna be out here, and, maybe some door knocking, and trying to be as transparent as possible. And maybe not everybody's going to agree, but at least if you're being open and honest with them and telling them how it is, and the reasons for it, even if they disagree, they can respect, where you're coming from. Because everybody's not, the 3,660 people that we have in the township, at my last look, everybody's not going to agree on things, So you want to please as many people as possible, but you also want to do the right thing. So if you're doing the right thing and you're explaining it to the community why you're doing it that way, and you have good reasons, you can say, here's the positives, here's the negatives, this is why we made this decision. Then I think that helps build trust. Even if they don't like the decision, they trust that you're being honest with them about what the reason for the decision. That's what I would say.
Great.
Perfect.
Bill?
And all of these were fantastic answers, and I think we're all pretty much saying the same type of thing. It's being open and honest with our residents, answering the hard questions, not playing politics in here. If you want a campaign to get reelected, we'll do it out there. We'll go around doing whatever. But I think we have to be more accessible and, like you say, get out and knock on the doors. I mean, we have to. This was something that we discussed back in 2021 when Bill and I were going around. Is like, if we get elected, we should do this at least like once a quarter. Come around, pick a street, let's go visit these people, knock on doors. Hey, how am I doing? Are you fine with the way we're running township now, or do you see something that you'd like to see changed? What are your input? Some people can't get out. Some people's like, I'll watch the video. What's nice about the video is I can watch the video Saturday morning with my coffee because I'm working all week and I don't have time to do that stuff during the week. Luckily, I'm not in that situation. But yeah, I think that is the way to win the trust. Be honest. Be honest, open, and they might not like what you're saying, but at least you're telling the truth. They might not re-elect you, but at least you told the truth.
Great.
Perfect. So, what is the role of the open space in Upper Frederick, and how would you balance growth with the preservation of our rural character? Billy, do you want me to reread it? That's saying too fast?
Well,
Sometimes.
no, that was like, what? Can't know who you're asking me. I've been looking at open space for working on a project for well over a year. As a matter of fact, it's on the agenda tonight for the committee appointments and whatnot. What we got to do with open space is look around us. Look at what the county's doing. Look at the county initiative. Look down at Lower Fred. Look at what New Hanover just did 2 days ago. 2 days ago, they bought 35 acres for $1.3 million, and it didn't cost the community any tax money because it was already in their fund. They have, well, I don't say tax, it wasn't tax money, it wasn't any expense on the community because they have a fund for purchasing open space. There's grants out there, there's bonds that can be purchased. There's ways to take somebody that comes into our town, buys a property and wants to farm it and stuff like that. There's ways that we can keep them farming it. They have no desire to build, or they're iffy and we want to make sure they don't build. We offer them some money to buy their development rights. Now they own the land, they keep their land, they keep their family there, they keep the farm there, they make money off of their farming and whatnot. But they can't develop it because we own those rights in perpetuity. And those are all kinds of actions. It's all spelled out, and I just haven't had it. It's all spelled out in all these pamphlets that eventually we have a presentation. If I do get appointed to that board, we have a presentation that will explain a lot of the open space happenings and stuff going on. But our surrounding neighbors, they've already done it. We should have done this 10, 15 years ago. And we wouldn't be in the situation we are right now. We'd be sitting on a nice chunk of change to buy properties. We could buy this development property here and keep it open. But, you know, people back then, the old supervisor stuff, were saying, yeah, we want to keep it rural. They should have taken some type of action back then. Because now, we're playing catch up. The rest of the communities are ahead of us. But we are the last stand. We are the last bedroom community in Montgomery County. And it's worked all the way up to us. Let's try and keep it that way. Open space will help.
You need to read too, Mr. Steve?
No,
I'm sorry, buddy.
I'm for open space, but I am not for the township buying anything that we don't need, that we're not responsible for. The township should be taking care of the roads, maintaining the roads, repairing. The township should be doing everything that they're responsible for. We shouldn't be buying houses. We shouldn't be buying open space. We shouldn't be spending the taxpayers' money on things that are not our responsibility. I like the fact that we have, most houses have to be on 2 acres. There's, if somebody has a ton of property that they want to sell, I don't think it's our business to spend the taxpayer money buying land. I think it's great if the state, and I'm sure the state, I don't know of any, I've never researched it, has grants and has programs where they can buy open space and donate it to us. That'd be great. I'm all for that. I'm all for open space. I am not for spending the people's money on nothing. I wouldn't I wouldn't pay somebody to keep their land from somebody building on it. Like I said, I would treat the township's money as I would my own money. That's a frivolous payment. I would never do that. And I would be against that. But I'm for open space, as long as it doesn't cost us anything. We shouldn't have to spend $1 million on property and then 3 years from now be raising taxes on the taxpayer. That's insane. Costs are going up for every single person in here. Inflation doesn't count food and fuel. Are you serious? Food and fuel? Who doesn't need food and fuel? So inflation is way higher than the numbers are. So I don't think we should burden the taxpayer with any of that. I think that's nonsense. That's how I feel about it.
I appreciate your openness.
Mrs. Darby, do you want me to reread it? There you go.
I appreciate it, just to make sure I'm answering the question.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it's on the other page. What is the role of open space in Upper Frederick, and how would you balance growth with preservation of our rural character?
Well, I'm gonna start by saying, my mother has been working with Bill on some presentation about this. I think it's a good idea. I don't know all the intricacies of it. She's asked me for help mainly on how the information is being presented when the time comes. But the township is rural, and that's it. From now and any time in the future, that's going to be a threat, no matter what. We're an hour outside of Philly. People will commute that, and I have friends who have come in from around the country, and they're always amazed by specifically how green it is. It's called green space for a reason, because my buddy from Florida came up here not too long ago, and Miami's beautiful, but he was gobsmacked by how green it was constantly. It was a little overwhelming for me. I'm just like, this is such a normal feeling. It's such a relaxing feeling, and so preserving that is, in my opinion, one of the most important things. But we are in an area that, hopefully not in our lifetimes, but sometime in the future, we're too close to an urban area. And so laying the groundwork now is what's important. If we just let all these developments come in, we see it time and again, how we can even just look at the other townships around us, how they've made mistakes, how they'll run wells dry, their sewer systems don't work. They force other residents to go onto public water or public sewers, and it's just, it's money out of the residents that, for these developments to come in, because at the time they thought it was a good idea, but I don't think it is. It's happening too quickly. And so to lay that foundation now for our future, because it may not affect us in our generation, but it's our future generations. It's not just us. It's making sure that it will last more than a lifetime of, we don't want hopefully not the urbanization of our area, but as more people will definitely come in, we need to make sure that we are ready to facilitate any problems that can occur like that. And so, I mean, I think there's options, and I think what Bill has planned and what will be discussed in the future is a viable option. It's not the only, I don't think it'd be the only option, and there's definitely more research that we need to go into how to solve it long term, but for short term, for laying a foundation, I do think it's a viable option.
Okay. Good.
So when I went out into the workforce, I worked in Telemanson Township. I worked for a paving, excavating company, and we paved a lot of township roads down there, all throughout the whole region down there. So we were in Bloomville, Montgomeryville, and I remember thinking, just walking down Morris Road, driving down there, I'd see these big grandiose farms with hundreds and hundreds of acres, and beautiful, just like you're driving up in Ole. This wasn't that long ago, and I would just drive down and I'd see the big huge barn, the big beautiful farmhouse, like you'd see over in Ole, and just the wrecking ball taking it down, or a big triac, or a big track hoe, knocking it down, jamming them into dumpsters, and next thing you know, within a year's time, whole field's just filled up. So I wish I was optimistic, like you say, in our lifetime. If we're not, Bill, he's right. We are the last agricultural district in Montgomery County, and just within 20 years, it's just gone way out here. I mean, I'm in this field. I've done work for a lot of these big builders. Toll Brothers will come in and put 1,000 homes in, a 300-400 acre tract, townhomes, and without, in 10 years you're like, wow. That was the Knapp farm along 309 in Montgomeryville. I remember we used to go dump, like excess blacktop and stone fill piles in there. I don't know, it was about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I took a ride down there and I was like, I remember going down there, going down memory lane, and I didn't recognize it. You go over to the THP properties on the other side of Pennsburg. It's just on the other side of McCoby Run Golf Course. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres. You can't even get a fire truck down these roads. It can happen very fast. In the course of 15 years, if we're not careful. I do understand that the homeowners, it's private property, and that's kind of the juggling act there, because people own property, and they can sell them to developers, and once the developer owns them, they are allowed to utilize that property to the highest and best use, which means if your zoning allows for 300 houses there, well, it's going to go in. So I go back to the fundamentals, treating the people within a township with a lot of respect. There's zoning out there. I don't think we have any of this, but we could push agritainment. I don't know if you've heard of that term. We could push that type of stuff. I mean, the Philadelphia Folk Festival over in Upper South Township has gone on for 60 some years. They bring so much money in from that. To be honest, I thought of starting one here, right here in the township. I mean, there's a lot to it, but I'm game. There's always ways to, if it's something creative. I'm an out of the box thinker here. Again, in 2015, we permanently preserved our family farm. I think education's key. So if somebody has 50 acres and they want to sell it, maybe the kids inherit it and they don't want anything to do with it. Well, I mean, it's only worth a certain amount of money, but you can sell the development rights, permanently preserve it. The process isn't that difficult. I remember when we did that, the county, they were drooling all over the property. They said flat out, right to me as I sat there and there across from the desk, they said, we don't see properties of this size come across our radar very often. So when we saw yours went straight to the top of the pack. So it was a very simple process. But, you could form, let's just say, again, creative thinking here, if you got multiple 20-acre lots or something like that, because it's got to be at least 10 acres before you can go to get permanently preserved. But if they only have so much money per year. So if you have a larger property that comes across the desk and all you got is 12 acres, but compared to 100 acres, they're immediately going to go to the 100 acres and preserve that. So there could be education, getting multiple people. So think about this. If you got multiple, 5 lots of 15 acres apiece, a house in each one of them, because there are stipulations that allow you to live on the property, and you formed a co-op there, it doesn't mean, everybody jointly owns everything, everybody retains their own property, free to sell it, whatever. You could take those pieces of that one chunk as a co-op and take it in for permanent land preservation and put money in each person's pocket, and that way it doesn't cost a cent from the township and it's permanently preserved. So is that possible? I don't know, but there's a whole plethora of things that could be talked about to do this, but it requires discussion. And as long as we're dealing with, everybody is an adult in the room, which we are here, and there's no politics in the boardroom. There aren't very many problems in America that we can't solve and tackle if everybody just discusses them in a rational, grown-up way, for the benefit of everybody. So that's all.
Perfect.
That means it's my turn,
It's you, Miss
and you
Lisa.
again.
Yes, but this is the last question.
This is the last question.
So it's kind of fun.
How would you build a better sense of community and increase pride in Upper Frederick Township?
Well, the community days is pretty cool. Basically, I think it goes back down to, every question and every person or every people here has hit on the subjects. If we adhere to those principles, my line of work has led me to go to municipalities in the tri-state area, and actually from Florida and Tennessee to North Carolina, even up in New York City. And everybody's the same wherever they go, but you just got different policies everywhere. And if you command the respect, not demand, but command, you'll command the respect from the community if you just treat them properly. For decades, I wasn't going to say this, my grandfather with the farm over here, he left Germany, him and his brother left Germany before the start of World War II. And he never liked talking about this stuff, but he got a letter from Hitler at one point, from the Third Reich saying if you don't come back and fight for them, when they conquered the U.S., they were going to destroy the whole family. That kind of stuff. My grandpa gave him the shot and all that kind of stuff. But he used to say, my whole life growing up, stay away from this building right here. It's funny, I'm right here. Stay away from them. Stay away from them because they're no good, right? And to be honest, I've known a great many farmers in this area, the old farmers. They had the same philosophy, just stay away from the townships. That's why they build a building on their property without a permit, because they knew they were going to get a hard time. We're just going to do it. It's the lack of respect. You have to make people say, hey, the administrators of this community are great people. Even if they turn me down for that permit because it does state right here in the codes, there's something wrong. If you feel really strongly about that, petition them to change the code. It can be done depending on what it is. But they were really good and honest about it, and they treated me with dignity and respect. I think that's just really it in a nutshell. You know, treat the people of the community with great respect, and if they respect you, you're going to build community pride, because they'll be like, hey, I think I'm going to go to the township today and see what's going on, or come in there and say hi to Lisa Fisher, as opposed to, yeah, I gotta go see her. You know, like in the past. You know what I mean? And that's the way it's always been, my whole life. Everybody I've known, yeah, I gotta go to the township and go talk to them. I won't say it. You know, and that's the way it's been. You know, this is the last agricultural district, and the old farmer just said it the way it was. And it might not have been very nice, but they were tough back then, and they just said it. You know, and I think that's what you got to do.
Great, okay. Darby,
Repeat the question.
how would you build a better sense of community and increase pride in Upper Frederick?
I'm gonna start by piggybacking off of what you said a bit, but you know, I feel like everybody, to a certain degree, has a distrust of the government. I mean, that's just kind of how, especially around here, how a lot of people were raised. And that's because for a lot of politics, especially a lot of local government, it is faceless. You know, except for like one or two people. But I mean, until a couple of years ago, I didn't know who any of my elected officials are. You know, just because I see a name on the ballot, that I mean, it's unless you're actively looking for that information. You know, especially when you're younger, it's easy to just vote down your party lines, or you know, just kind of go in undecided, or not even vote. But as for giving more pride to this community, besides, you know, our leaders need to no longer be faceless. You know, we need to be out there in our community and telling people why it's important to be a part of our community. It's, you know, it's our green spaces. It's our, you know, I keep saying rural character, but there's more to our character. You know, we're resilient, we're faithful people. We try to respect each other, and we try to be neighborly. You know, but especially in the modern era, it's easier and easier to hide behind a screen and not be out there in your community and not have as much pride, because you can lose that sense very quickly. You know, I've seen it. I mean, during COVID, one of the clubs I was president for fell apart after I graduated, because that the community kind of fell apart, the leadership fell apart, and you know, it's no longer there, which is a shame. You know, and that can happen here. I'm not saying that'll happen to our local government, but that can easily happen to the pride in our community. It's nice to see that we have community days. It's nice to see we have the Goshen happen. You know, I loved going to that Goshen. I love the potato candy at Goshen happen. But you know, if we're just looking at those small events, that's not going to create the community. You know, it's nice living in a rural area, but I used to be envious of when I used to see on TV or social media block parties and the like. You know, it's not how often do neighbors really get together, and it's not necessarily it'd be nice if our local government did more, but it comes down to encouraging our residents to do more, to help not only, you know, us who are trying to lead them, but you know, each other. I mean, I hate to say it, I can probably name 5 or 6 people in this room. You know, and I hope to change that one day, but it's just the way it is now. And I think, you know, we can build upon it, we can change it. I think